And each one of us, whatever that journey might look like, whatever unique destination, we all have this very unique path that we're on. If I were to ask, whatever vocation you may be in now, did you foresee that, when you're younger, maybe as a teenager, in college, did you actually get the degree that is prepared you for this current vocation or not? Sometimes life takes us through unique paths. Sometimes there are, I guess using this metaphor a bit, sometimes there are detours along the way. Sometimes there are roadblocks, speed traps, those kinds of things that can really, really trip us up. So if we're going to really think about this path that we're on, we're in this sermon today, searching for direction. Let God show you the way. So if we think about that, if we're truly searching for direction, we probably ought to look at God's word and allow his word to speak to us, to give us that opportunity to hear from him about our destination and how we might get there. The passage that I've chosen to use this morning is very applicable to graduation Sunday, but truly it's applicable to every single person in this room and watching online. It's a passage that is very familiar to many of us. It's found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3. And the author is known as the wisest person in all of the Bible, King Solomon. The Lord blesses us in many ways. The Lord blessed Solomon with incredible, incredible wisdom. He also blessed him with a son. And the passage that we're going to read, really the first 9 chapters of the book of Proverbs, is actually advice to his son and other young people. So I'd like to read Proverbs 3. We're going to look at, starting at verse 1, but really dive into verse 5 and 6, which is very familiar to us. And Solomon says this, "My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, and then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man." I don't know about you, but I think that's good advice from a dad to his son. I know, looking back over my life, I was very in tune with the advice that I would receive from my dad. He also was a pastor, and I loved my dad so much. He taught me so much about how to love others well. I got great advice from my dad, and I, in turn, try to give great advice to my 3 boys. They're probably thinking, yeah, Dad, we actually give you advice a lot, but I do my best. So verses 5 and 6 is really where we want to land for a bit this morning. And it says this, "Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." That's one of those verses that, many of us probably, going back, maybe learned it in the King James, and in your mind as I read it, you said a different word or a different phrase. It's one of those passages that we kind of just read through, and maybe even this morning as you saw the video or you heard where this is coming from, you thought, okay, I'm going to tune out for a bit. I'd like for you to tune back in, because I really think there's some incredible truth that we're going to be able to pull out of this passage, again, that's applicable, I feel like, to each one of us this morning. So, the reality is, like I mentioned before, that we're all on this unique journey. And the hope is that our destination is going to be centered around incredible outcomes. We're hopeful from an early age to late in life is that our outcomes will be divine outcomes, that God will be a part of every step of our journey together. So from early stages of life, we think, what am I going to be when I grow up? Some of you might still be asking that question. What am I going to be when I grow up? So there are outcomes dealing with vocation. And along with that, there are maybe some of you that are in a career path. Maybe you're in a vocation that you're kind of wondering, is there something else? Is there a different kind of outcome that I should maybe pivot and look toward? Many of us have destinations, wonderful outcomes, hopeful outcomes for financial security. We want God to be a part of our relationships. We wonder, who is it that we're going to marry when we get older? I wonder if I've met my spouse yet as a teenager. You wonder these things in early life, and now even as many of us grown-ups, many of us are blessed to have a spouse, we hope and pray that you continually grow together toward one another and toward the Lord. You want a positive outcome in your relationships with your spouse. You want a great relationship with your friends, other family members, with your kids. You want great outcomes. Many of us are kind of thinking down the road about retirement. You kind of wonder, am I doing the things today? Am I on the right path to be able to retire comfortably? And so you're hopeful that there is a great outcome there. Some of you are in the stage of life right now that you're in an apartment and you're kind of wondering, should I be living here? Should I begin to invest in purchasing my own home, or my wife and I, my husband and I, should we invest in a home? And there's an outcome that we're looking for. And maybe even some others are wondering, is it time for me to start a family? Is it an opportunity for me to really be blessed with children? So there are many great outcomes that we are hopeful to have. And again, hopefully, we are at a place in our walk with the Lord is that we're hopeful that He can be a part of every aspect of our journey. So those outcomes, those divine outcomes, kind of leads to my first point, is that divine outcomes require divine direction. And I have to be honest with you this morning, sometimes that divine direction is not always pleasant. Sometimes we go through things, maybe even you're going through a challenge right now, and you even wonder, why is God allowing this to happen? This certainly isn't how I would want it to happen. Why is He allowing this issue for me, whether it's financial or whatever it may be? Why is He allowing these things to happen? We have to submit to His direction. If we want His divine outcome, if we want the end game to be what He has for each one of us, we have to be willing to kind of go through the process. Many times we have to feel the discipline of the Lord. Many times if we truly want to gain knowledge and depth of our spiritual walk, we have to go through those areas of true discipline. So the question for us this morning is, how do we get to those divine outcomes? Do we accept and just take it for what it is? Do we pivot and go a different direction? Well, I think part of that is going back to the text once again and realizing that we need to fully trust in the Lord. I'll read the passage again, and I will periodically this morning. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. So really, it starts with this concept of trust. So what does that mean? It's a word that we've heard most of our lives. But if we dissect that word, if we look at the original meaning, there's really three areas that kind of encapsulates this thought of trust. And the first one is security. If we're truly trusting God, we feel secure. Secondly, we feel a sense of safety. We feel safe in the arms of the Lord, knowing that even though we might be going through it right now, we feel safe knowing that He's right by our side. And then lastly, confidence. We feel confident. We feel that the Lord He's got our back. I can feel confident knowing that I can get through whatever it is. So we feel security, we feel safety, we feel confidence. So Solomon is telling us this morning, just simply trust. Just trust in him. I'd like to borrow one of my sons. Gavin is going to come up and help me with the illustration. A little golf cap for Gav. That was really nice. Could we get a little bit of lighting up here, Pastor Ben? Would that be great? So I'm going to have Gavin come right up here. Gavin is a great young man. He is going to help me with an illustration. He's going to stay right here. Hey, Gav, if you were to turn around and face the other way, would you go ahead and put your hands like this across your chest? Can we cut the video for 1 second? I don't want anything to go viral if this goes bad. I'm just kidding. All right, so Gav, what I want you to do is just fall back and I'm going to catch you. Not yet. So what do you think? You think he has full trust? Does he have the security and confidence? I know that look, he doesn't. What if your brothers came up? Would that make you feel a little bit better? A little bit. Chase, Clay, could you guys come up here a second? Let's give it up for his brothers. All right. Okay. No, why don't you stay down here? I'm going to catch all of you, right? All right, face each other. Cool. Now, cross. All right. Why don't you guys, that just seems really, I don't know. All right, the count, how you feeling? You feeling all right?
Better than if it was just you.
Better if it was just me? What if your mom came up too? Would that, come on, Aim, why don't you jump up here? All right. Yes. All right, you feeling good?
No, I know this isn't happening.
She's like, no, I know it's not happening. Oh, it's happening. It's happening.
Oh, come on, baby.
All right, turn around.
He's a
You
little taller.
feel, how you feeling? You feeling okay?
Yeah.
How about if our future daughter-in-laws come up and join us too? Megan, Caitlin, would you guys come on up? This is the whole Brown family. Grammy, we're going to let you stay put, okay? All right. All right, we're really doing this, okay? This isn't just an illustration, all right? She said, I don't think it's a good idea.
That's okay, I'm a trauma nurse.
We got a nurse in the family. Okay, on the count, you feeling all right? You feeling secure, safe, confident?
Can you do what the girls are doing?
Yeah, do this.
Okay.
You're actually going to drop. Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
All right, count of 3.
Don't do it, guys.
Is this feeling natural or just a bit? All right. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, we're doing it.
All right.
I think we got it.
Thank you. Whew. That could have gone really badly. So, what are we trying to prove here? That sometimes, Gavin, probably, have you ever done a trust fall before? Yeah, Paco, yep, okay. I have, and it's a very unnatural feeling. Just literally, I'm doing this, I'm trusting. And sometimes, really, life can be like that. Sometimes we go through stages of our development, whether that's emotional, spiritual, whatever that might be. We go through stages of our lives. We go through areas. We go through discipline of our life, and we truly have to trust in God and really understand that He's got us. I want to read a passage of Scripture. Once again, Proverbs 16:9 says this: "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Many times we can compare and relate to like a corn maze. I don't know if in the fall time, there's corn mazes. We take the youth group and stuff too. I hate them, truthfully. Going through a maze, you think you're going on the right path, and you go down this area, and suddenly there's a wall of corn. You turn around and you go back, and The funny thing is to be up on a bridge and you're watching everyone else go through the maze. Sometimes life is like a maze, and truthfully, the Lord is elevated above our lives, and He's looking down, and He sees our every step. He knows when we're going to trip up. He knows when we're going to go in the right direction. The reality is, though, when we try to do things on our own, many times it can go very poorly. Which leads to the second point this morning, is that God's plan for my life, for your life, is better than my plan. God's plan for my life is better than my plan. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him. He will make your paths straight. You know, the Bible is telling us that we need to lean on Him. We need to put our weight on Him. We need to put our full trust in Him. I want to tell you a brief story of my calling into ministry. I mentioned early on that my dad was a pastor. I was able to pull out a report that I wrote in 7th grade, and the very last line, it was kind of an all about me report. It was that I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. And so the Lord, even as an early middle schooler, was instilling this divine calling on my life. I went through high school, and that stayed true, that calling. I felt like the Lord was really preparing me for that next step, what that might look like. I had 2 youth pastors in my middle school and high school years that were incredible men of God that impacted my life, and God used to prepare me. I wanted to have impact on the lives of teenagers as well. It was not until I went to Olivet Nazarene University right out of high school, I felt, okay, maybe that was just all talk. Maybe it was really just for my dad and for him to be proud of me. Maybe it was for those youth pastors. Maybe it was just talk. And so I actually I went into business. I pursued a business degree. I was at Olivet for 3 years, had a great time, incurred a ton of debt. And it was debt that wasn't just financial aid debt that, you pay on after college. It wasn't just that, but it was outstanding debt that in that day, if you didn't pay what was outstanding, you couldn't go back the next semester. So at that point, I owed $7,000, and my folks did all that they could, Parent Plus loans. I did, all the FAFSA and did all the federal loans that I could. Didn't qualify for any academic scholarships. Surprise, surprise, boys, but that's okay. No athletic scholarships. So I left Olivet after 3 years, moved to Alabama with my folks, and just worked a couple different jobs, all the while trying to pay down that $7,000, which was very, very difficult. Fast forward just a year, 2 years, moved back to Columbus, Ohio. My dad was on staff at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, and that debt of $7,000 was now $2,000, and I felt like, okay, maybe I'm going to get there. The Lord began to really speak to my heart about this true calling that was on my life. It wasn't just for talk. It wasn't just for other people, but the Lord really, really began to speak to me. And I was able to hear a speaker, a youth speaker that had an enormous impact on my life. Her name was Lori Salerno. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she began to talk about ways that you can discern the will of God. There's 5 different questions that you ask yourself, and how can I discern God's plan for my life? It has stuck with me for literally decades now, and I want to share it with you. Hopefully it'll tweak a thought and be meaningful to you as well. So there's 5 questions. If you're discerning the will, the direction of God this morning in any factor of your life, any area, vocation, relationship, financial, spiritual, whatever walk of life you may be in right now, these 5 things, these questions that we can ask ourselves is really how the Lord can discern, how we can discern God's plan. And the first one is, what is God saying through the Word? We have to be in tune with God's Word, and not just flippantly, I'll read a passage here and there, but in your daily prayer time, if you're really trying to discern God's plan for your life, you absolutely can't do it without being in the Word. So what is he saying through the Bible? Secondly, what is God saying through prayer? So the Word, through prayer, you have to be on your knees daily. If you're at a place, a pivot, you're at a crossroad right now, you absolutely have to bathe that decision in prayer. And, oftentimes we go to God in prayer and we say, Lord, this is what I want. This is the direction that I want to go, and I want you to bless this direction of mine, this plan of mine. Well, God doesn't work that way, because we know that God's plan is better than our plan. So a lot of times when I say, what is God saying through prayer, it's a matter of just being quiet and listening, just praising him, and just being in a place of meditation and allowing God to speak his voice to you. So that's 2 questions. The third question is, what wise counsel have you received? What wise counsel? So not only is it this thought of reading the Word and praying, but it's really seeking wise counsel from not just anyone, but a Christian brother or sister that might be a mentor of yours. Maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's a family member, but someone that's in your life that you can look up to and you can respect them for their opinion. That's 3 questions that you can ask. The third one is, what is your gut telling you? What is your gut telling you? Maybe you're checking off the boxes of the Word and prayer. You're getting the attaboys, and yeah, you got this. I see you in this role. But maybe your gut is saying something different. And then finally, are circumstances falling into place? Circumstances, are they falling into place? And I have to say, through Lori Salerno, and I've applied these concepts through most of my whole adult life, and I can tell you that from time after time, if all 5 boxes aren't checked, it's 99% sure it's not God's plan for you. If you feel that, there's someone that you trust and they say, you know what, I don't want to, burst your bubble. I don't want to discourage you, but I don't see you in that role. You should take that seriously. If your gut is kind of saying, gosh, it's not just nervous gut, but it's, it's like, I just don't feel right. I'd like to take my calling another level and to another place, and I think this is very helpful in this 5-point application. And that is 3 years ago, we as a church, as Grace Life Church, were in a transition period from lead pastor to lead pastor. Pastoral transition. If you're with us, they were some very challenging days for our staff, for our church board. We were meeting regularly with the district superintendent, the church board. Those of you that were on that team at that time, you remember how challenging those were. We had a few different applicants that came in. You guys interviewed them. Jim Smith at that time was our church board secretary. He was tasked to keep us as a congregation informed. So the weeks turned into months. So right at a year's time, there was a gentleman on the board who I respect highly, came to me, asked if we could have lunch together. And he asked, he said, Steve, have you ever considered this possibility of stepping in to the lead pastor position? I said, no, I hadn't. I didn't feel that that was my calling. I didn't feel that that was the Lord speaking to me. But I had told him I would really seriously and earnestly pray about it. And so I did. And would you know that that very day, later that day, I got a call from the district superintendent. And he said, Steve, I'd like for you to consider something. I'd like for you to consider. Now, again, the DS doesn't know the conversation that I had with the other gentleman. I think it would be good for you to at least prayerfully consider this role. And I thought, okay, is the Lord trying to say something to me right now? So I told him I don't, but I'm happy to pray about it. And so I began to institute these 5 things. Talk to Amy, because your spouse is your wise counsel. There should be. So she was that for me. She said, honestly, I don't know, but let's at least we pray about it and let's be obedient. And so we did, and we stepped through that process, and we felt like maybe this is the Lord's direction. We went through each of the 5, and things were kind of coming together. I was feeling pretty good about this possibility. I love this church. I love you. I love this community. I've poured into it for a long time. I felt like, okay, maybe God is helping me. I preached a lot more than I had in the past and was really growing. And went through an interview process with the church board. I don't know if you all know this or not, but went through an interview process, and I think it went pretty well. If you're on the board, maybe you can tell me otherwise. We were in the process of setting up a second interview, and one of these 5 things began to come to the surface, and it was my gut. I almost physically got sick thinking about what the next step could be. Pastor Joe was probably like, I am sick with you thinking about this opportunity. And I was like, okay, is this the Lord? Am I nervous? Am I not trusting? Am I not being obedient? But then circumstances began to not fall into place. I've devoted an enormous amount of time and energy to our child care. I love overseeing the child care and the ministry that it entails. Our assistant director at the time, if this would have gone into place, I asked her to think through, would you want to be the director? And she had no interest in that at all. And that, at the time, the Lord was saying, okay, I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking truth into your life. I realized through these areas of 5 true, deep questions that it wasn't God's plan for me. And can I tell you that it was the toughest decision? It was around Christmas time, and I contacted the DS. I contacted Jim Smith as our church board secretary, and I said, I'm going to have to withdraw my name. And that was the hardest thing, but I have to tell you, it was an instant peace. Instant peace. My gut, I was like gut healthy. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to pour my life into the child care. It's going to be phenomenal. And it was God saying, I just wanted to see if you were going to be obedient. So my question for you this morning, are you there? Are you entering a place of question? Are you at this pivotal crossroad? And I would encourage you to really utilize this 5-step plan. It leads us to our final point this morning, and what does it mean to fully submit to God? Trusting fully requires complete submission to God's outcome. Trusting fully requires complete submission to God's outcome. We have to come to the place of our walk with the Lord that, okay, we're going to be okay with whatever His outcome is. We've recognized that His plan is better than my plan. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding in all of your ways, not just a few of your ways. The wisest person in the Bible is saying, in all of your ways, submit to Him. So this is an if and then. If we do these things, if we submit to Him, He will make your paths straight. So if we completely submit to God and trust him with whatever the outcome might happen, we have to be okay with the answer. We recognize and we look back on our life, and you can see times of our journey, our spiritual journey, our vocational journey, our relational journey. We can see that there are times that we were tripped up. Maybe we made poor decisions, and the Lord kind of helped us go out of the direction, but gently brought us back. I'm going to ask the praise team to come up and help us with a final song this morning. But I have a couple questions for you as they come. And the first question is, are you willing and able to put your full trust in him? See, it starts with a willingness. There's a humongous difference between saying, yes, I believe in God. I believe in this higher power. I believe that he created the world. I believe that he loves me. There's a big difference between belief and trust. So my question for you this morning is, do you trust him? Do you trust him with everything? Do you trust him with your family? Do you trust him with your finances? Do you trust him with your relationships? Do you trust him with your future, with your retirement, with it all? Do you trust him? Second question is, are you leaning more on your own understanding than allowing God to discipline you? We think that we're pretty smart. We think that we're educated. We think that we've been trained to do our job, to be in this relationship. But are we at a place when you can really be transparent with yourself and say, you know what, I am leaning more on me than on God? Third question is, have you put your future in his hands? Have you submitted all things to him? If you're willing and able to stand, I invite you to do so. And as you ponder those three questions, as the team sings this song, if you know it, if you want to follow along on the screen, I would just ask you to answer those three things. Are you submitting your life? Are you trusting him? Are you leaning more on yourself than on him? Have you given him your future? And next, I think it's appropriate to respond, whatever that looks like for you. If that means sitting back down and just weeping, if that means coming to the altar and praying, if that means an obedient thought to say, I've got to find a person I can trust. I need to get some wise counsel. Maybe you need to ask him 5 questions. I think we just need to be obedient and respond how he's leading. Let's sing.